Just outside the asteroid belt, a massive warship drifted silently in the darkness of space. The ship's name was Stalwart, a vessel equipped with humanity's latest technology and one of the deadliest strategic weapons in the galaxy. This 1-kilometer-long metallic beast was clad in light-absorbing black armor plates, making it blend seamlessly into the endless void of space. In the vast, high-ceilinged room of the command center, Commander Bryce, his face lined with the weight of war, stood attentively amidst the flickering lights of holographic screens. His steel-blue eyes glinted with calm determination as he scanned the data in front of him. Beside him, Ruth, a young scientist responsible for nanobot operations, shifted restlessly in her spot. Her short-cropped black hair and serious expression mirrored her scientific acumen. The faint shadows under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept much in recent weeks. Stalwarts Target was a massive warship belonging to the Zyker Empire, known to be one of the most powerful war machines in the galaxy. With its metallic gray color, it appeared as cold and unyielding as an asteroid in the dark reaches of space. Its advanced defensive technologies and thick armor had repelled countless attacks over the years, but Bryce and his team were confident they could overcome this challenge with their nanobots. A nanobot attack that seized control of all systems within the Zyker ship could leave them completely defenseless. Ruth took a deep breath as the system alerted them that only a few minutes remained before the launch of the nanobot capsules. She turned to Commander Bryce, nodding in confirmation. "We're ready, Commander," she said. "The nanobot capsules are locked onto the target. We can initiate the launch." Bryce nodded resolutely. "Launch," he commanded. Inside the Zyker ship, the bridge crew initially noticed a strange vibration within the vessel. Signals began to appear on the main computer screens, indicating a disruption in what was usually a silent and stable system. Chief Engineer Sareth quickly checked the ship's system controls, but the warnings on the panels were becoming increasingly complex and incomprehensible. "Commander Zurl, there's a malfunction in the ship's systems," Sareth said, his voice tinged with worry, and his face had gone pale. Zurl, a tall, muscular Zyker warrior, carried an air of command. His bright blue skin and metal plates on his head signified his military rank. His steely eyes contrasted sharply with the finely lined features of his face. "Sareth, initiate defense protocols immediately and switch to manual control," he ordered. But before his words were fully out, the lights inside the ship flickered and went out. Soon after, pieces of the thick armor began peeling away from the ship's surface, as if the ship itself were shedding like a snake. Zurl rushed towards the rear sections of the ship, watching as the doors swiftly sealed and locked. As soon as the nanobots infiltrated the Zyker ship, they took control, swiftly gnawing through the ship's circuits. These tiny, microscopic robots each acted like a predator. First, they sabotaged the ship's power lines, then completely disabled its defensive systems. The entire Zyker crew inside was left helpless, caught under the nanobots' control. Metallic echoes and panicked shouts reverberated throughout the ship. Watching the rapid spread of the nanobots' influence over the control panel, Zurl realized that even the reactor room, the heart of the ship, had been disabled. With doors locked and ventilation systems shut down, some soldiers faced the danger of suffocation. Access to the reactor room had become impossible. The Zyker ship had turned into a massive heap of metal. On the Stalwart, the large holographic screens in the center of the command room displayed the chaos unleashed by the nanobots within the Zyker ship in vivid detail. Ruth turned to Bryce with a gleam of triumph in her eyes, taking a deep breath. "Operation successful, Commander," she said. "The nanobots have completely taken over the target. No defense systems remain on the ship." Bryce nodded without taking his eyes off the screen. "Recall the nanobots and collect the remains. We won't let the Zyker Empire develop a defense against our nanobots. Begin preparations for the next target." Humanity had begun to instill fear across the galaxy with its living steel nanobot army, capable of dismantling and reshaping enemy ships. This force held the power to neutralize even the strongest Zyker warships and had become the new face of terror in the eyes of their enemies. The capital of the Zyker Empire, Zack Prime, was a planet covered with massive crystal domes and high-tech structures. The ruling class and military leaders of the empire lived here in sprawling palaces and towering skyscrapers. The planet's surface was protected by an atmospheric energy shield that defended against foreign threats, casting the sky in shades of purple and blue. In the War Council chamber on Zack Prime, Panic filled the air. The Empire's highest-ranking military leaders and scientists had gathered around a vast holographic map. Their eyes were fixed on the image of a recently captured warship, now adrift and defenseless in the cold darkness of space. Captain Zurl stepped to the center of the meeting room. His tall figure and metallic armor shone against his blue skin, adorned with golden symbols marking his high rank and victories in numerous battles. Zurl's gaze was fixed on the holographic map. "This isn't just an attack," he said in a calm voice. "It's a warning. The humans are showing just how dangerous their technology can be." Chief Scientist Verex, positioned next to the hologram console, was analyzing data. The structural protrusions on the back of his head, fitted with 4 eyes, were a genetic adaptation unique to the Zyker species, granting him exceptional vision. "The nanobots deactivated our ship's circuits almost instantly. These micro-robots are programmed to bypass our defenses," he said. "If we don't stop this threat quickly, our other warships will face the same fate." Above Zack Prime, a massive military base rose into the atmosphere. Known as the Solar Blade, it operated the Empire's orbital defense systems, armed with enormous mirrors that gathered sunlight and redirected it into energy weapons. Soldiers and engineers raced through the base's large metal corridors, with alarms blaring inside. The commander of the Solar Blade had been summoned to an emergency meeting. The Empire's most powerful line of defense was under threat from humanity's nanobots. Commander Yarrick entered the control room, striding with a long, muscular frame that made him look even more imposing than other Zyker soldiers. His deep purple eyes scanned the holographic screen in front of him, which displayed a list of strategic points that might be targeted by the nanobots next. "We need to anticipate their attack," Yarrick said with a steely resolve in his voice. "We must develop a defense against the nanobots, or our entire fleet will be forced to submit to the humans." Scientists and engineers were scrambling to find a way to counter the nanobot attacks. In large laboratories beneath the crystal domes, Zyker engineers were studying the nanobots, trying to understand their function. The initial prototypes for defense created electromagnetic pulses aimed at disrupting the nanobots, but the results were far from effective. Meanwhile, the Stalwart was preparing for a new operation. In the depths of space, within a graveyard of debris, humanity's nanobots were being reprogrammed to create a new strategic target from the remnants of Zyker ships. The debris field, filled with ship fragments and enormous piles of metal, resembled a space graveyard. With its light-absorbing armor making it nearly invisible, the Stalwart planned to use this area as a trap. In the command center, Ruth stood in front of a holographic display, watching the data stream with focus. "We've assigned a new mission to the nanobots," she said. "We'll lure the Zyker fleets into this debris field and ambush them. The nanobots will be released here and neutralize enemy ships one by one." Bryce turned to Ruth with a slight smile. "Humanity's new technology-based warfare is spreading fear across the galaxy," he said. "But we need to stay cautious. The Zyker won't underestimate us. Our next attack may be even more challenging." The countdown for Stalwart's new operation had begun. As the Zyker Empire's defense fleets scrambled to brace for the next nanobot assault, the humans lying in wait in the debris field were eager to see if their enemies could adapt to this new style of warfare. The fate of the galaxy rested in the hands of the nanobot army known as Living Steel. The control room aboard the Stalwart was blanketed in silence. In the dark void of space, hidden within a debris field, the massive warship lay in wait like a silent predator. Surrounded by enormous fragments of metal, burned shipwrecks, and floating debris, this vast space graveyard was about to become the stage for the imminent confrontation. Commander Bryce stood before the holographic screen, lost in deep thought as Stalwart's crew completed their final preparations. Ruth, watching the nanobots' latest positions on one of the screens, monitored the ship's ammunition and energy systems alongside other crew members. "The Zyker fleet is approaching," Ruth announced, her voice calm yet tense. "Their lead ships have been detected and will enter our trap in about 10 minutes. Bryce nodded, activating the microphone to address the crew. "Everyone, take your positions. Prepare to release the nanobots. We need to win this battle." The warships of the Zyker Empire advanced slowly into the debris field. At the front of the fleet was the command ship known as the Savage Claw. This ship, with its heavily armored and layered shell, was the pride of the Zyker Navy. Its sides were lined with energy cannons spanning nearly a kilometer, glowing with a menacing blue light. Captain Yarrick, aboard the Savage Claw's command bridge, watched the red indicators representing the nanobots on his holographic map with keen focus. His eyes gleamed with the warning lights signaling the approach of battle. "We know it's a trap," he told his engineer, Varex. "But we must do all we can to stop these micromonsters." Varex nodded in agreement. "We've activated electromagnetic defense systems, Captain," he responded. "We've prepared special magnetic shields that could limit the spread of the nanobots." "I hope it works." On the Stalwart, Bryce's order deployed the nanobot capsules. The capsules silently glided through the empty space, spreading across various points in the debris field. Once released, the nanobots moved swiftly, forming a microscopic army advancing toward the Zyker ships and attaching themselves to their outer hulls, beginning to eat away at the metal armor. "The nanobots have reached the outer armor of the Savage Claw," Ruth reported, her voice trembling with excitement. "Now the real work begins." On the Savage Claw's surface, the nanobots gleamed like tiny sparkling points as they quickly stripped away the metal. Initially, the impact felt like a mild vibration, but soon, severe disruptions started spreading through the ship's energy systems. Circuits exploded, lights flickered, and ammunition compartments in some sections faced the risk of explosion. Captain Yarrick barked orders to his crew. "Activate the isolation protocol in areas where the nanobots are present," he shouted. "Shut down the mechanical ventilation and depressurize those areas to neutralize them." Zyker engineers and technicians worked frantically to halt the nanobots' advance, strengthening the electromagnetic defense systems as they did so. But the nanobots continued to infiltrate key sections of the ship in a systematic fashion. Metal walls deep inside the ship began to crack as if they were decaying, and pressure doors were ripped from their frames. On the Stalwart, Bryce could feel victory within reach as the nanobots overtook the Zyker ships bit by bit. But suddenly, an unexpected alert appeared in Stalwart's own systems. The ship sensors had detected a massive energy wave rapidly approaching from a distant corner of space. Ruth quickly reviewed the data on her screens. "Commander, a huge energy wave from the Sun Blade is heading toward us," she said, her voice tinged with fear. "A flow of energy this intense could destroy our nanobots and severely damage the Stalwart." Bryce narrowed his eyes, catching sight of the distant gleam of the Sun Blade. The Zyker Empire's last resort weapon, this powerful energy cannon might be the only way to wipe out the nanobots. "Set all energy shields to maximum," he ordered with determination. "We have to withstand this impact." The energy wave from the Sun Blade tore through the darkness of space, heading toward both the Stalwart and the Zyker ships. Meanwhile, the Stalwart's nanobots intensified their assault within the Zyker ships. The Savage Claw's interior was almost completely overtaken, with the nanobots now controlling the ammunition bays and energy reactors. When the energy wave struck the Stalwart, the ship's shields trembled under the pressure. An enormous surge of heat and force tried to penetrate the ship's metal hull. In the control room, lights dimmed, and alarm sounds echoed. Bryce, steadying himself amid the violent tremors, continued giving orders to his team. "If the shields fail, engage all internal circuits manually. We're not abandoning this fight." To escape the energy wave's effects, the nanobots burrowed deeper within the Zyker ships, completely seizing the Savage Claw's energy reactors. In the reactor room, the nanobots' energy emissions generated a heat so intense that it melted through the metal walls. The reactor itself had become a ticking time bomb. Finally, the reactor aboard the Savage Claw detonated in a massive explosion. The blast's shockwave engulfed every corner of the debris field and spread outward into space. The Stalwart's shields cracked under the pressure, but the ship held firm. As Ruth and Bryce observed the now silent space after the explosion, they took a deep breath. "The strongest defense line of the Zyker Empire has fallen," Bryce stated, savoring the victory. "Humanity won this war with nanobots. Now, the galaxy has no choice but to face us." I hope you had a good time. If you liked my story, do not forget to comment and subscribe to my channel. Goodbye. See you in the next story.